Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Tabuns. I'm a member of Provincial Parliament for Toronto Danforth. I'm the Ontario NDP critic for energy and for climate change. Today I'm reintroducing my climate liability bill that came in earlier this year and was in fact adopted at second reading in this legislature. And this bill will allow businesses, individuals, and governments to sue fossil fuel companies for the damages that their product caused, and sue them for the cost of preparing and protecting people from those damages. It's modeled on tobacco liability laws that helped in the United States secure very large amounts of money for individual American states to deal with the healthcare costs of tobacco. Ontario has already seen several $100 million worth of damage from climate-related extreme weather events so far this year in 2018. The Bank of Canada said that within a few decades, Ontario will be looking at climate damage in the range of $20 to $40 billion per year, not only to deal with damage, but also to deal with, again, protecting people from potential damage. These are very significant financial burdens. Not all of this cost can be put on the backs of the people of Ontario. That's not fair. People deserve to have the support from a fossil fuel industry that's worth globally about $5 trillion. Big fossil fuel companies have to start paying their fair share of the cost of repairing damage that their products have caused and, again, protecting people from future damage. The Ford government should be supporting this bill. They've made it clear that they think that they're here for the people. The people should be spared the unfair costs of dealing with these damages. I'm joined this morning by Keith Stewart, Senior Strategist, Greenpeace Canada, for climate change, and Priyanka Vittal, In-House Counsel for Greenpeace. And I'll turn it over now to Keith.
Thanks, Peter. My name is Keith Stewart. I'm Senior Energy Strategist with Greenpeace Canada. Climate change is one of, if not the greatest challenge we're going to face in the 21st century. We need all levels of government, as well as corporations, citizens, and community groups, to do their part to help implement solutions. In his speech to the Ontario Energy Association on September 24th, Ontario Environment Minister Rod Phillips said that the Ford government would adopt an approach to climate change that put the onus on big polluters. The Liability for Climate-Related Harms Act being announced here today does precisely that. And since the Ford government has renounced using most of the other policy tools for fighting climate change, and is even going to court to try and tie the federal government's hands, then this proposed legislation becomes even more important. Make no mistake, we need the Government of Ontario to be a leader in the fight against climate change. We want the Government of Ontario to join the fight against climate change. But if the Ford government refuses to lead, or even follow, in the fight to stabilize our climate, then they should get out of the way of those who will. Any politician who claims to stand up for the little guy should support this legislation because it clears a path for our fossil fuel companies to pay their fair share towards protecting our communities from the ravages of climate change. As Peter mentioned, it's modeled on the legislation that enabled the province to pursue $50 billion in healthcare costs from the tobacco industry. That legislation was enacted because the tobacco companies knew about the addictiveness of cigarettes and the health damages they caused. They deceived the public by misrepresenting the risks. They failed to warn the public about the dangers of smoking, and they did not take all available steps to reduce the risks caused by their products. All of these things are equally true with respect to fossil fuel companies and climate change. Just like tobacco, oil and coal companies hid what they knew about the science in order to delay policy action that would reduce the market for their product. And just like tobacco, they should have to pay their fair share of fixing the problem that they not only played a significant role in creating, but made worse by delaying the actions required to solve it. I'll now turn it over to Priyanka Vittal, In-House Counsel with Greenpeace Canada.
Hi, my name is Priyanka Vittal, and as Keith mentioned, I'm in-house counsel for Greenpeace Canada. And we work with people all over Canada and all over the world who are seeking justice for climate impacts. The effects of climate change are being felt around the world, and including Ontario, as Peter had mentioned. And these unpredictable weather events and extreme climate change will have some unforeseeable effects on businesses, such as wineries and farm and agricultural, which will ultimately affect our economy. This isn't just an issue for climate and environment, but also economic issues. This private member's bill represents an opportunity for Ontario to take the lead and proactively address the effects of climate change. Cities like New York and San Francisco and other plaintiffs in countries like Australia and Germany and the Philippines are also seeking to hold corporations accountable through the courts. And in Ontario, plaintiffs should be able to do the same. Legislation like this is important for plaintiffs to clarify the legal path forward and hold these companies accountable. So we know what is responsible for climate change and who are responsible for climate change. And through this sort of legislation, claimants will hopefully only need to prove that, one, that the tort or damage actually occurred or will occur, and that the defendant was responsible to be able to advance the claim. Currently, the common law and lack of legislation tilts the playing field in favor of these corporations and oil companies with deep pockets who can pay teams of lawyers to delay and draw out cases in hopes of exhausting their opponents, or cases being struck down on technicalities because the law hasn't advanced to address issues like climate change. Our laws are stuck in the past and we need legislation with teeth. And this is a simple yet handy piece of legislation that will allow litigants to get to the heart of the matter in the issues of apportioning damages of past and future harms. This is something that carbon majors have been avoiding and should be held responsible for. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Quelques questions?
Pouvez-vous donner un exemple de responsabilité? Parce que bon, quand il pleut fort à Toronto, il y a des inondations, mais comment est-ce qu'on peut dire que ça, c'est vraiment lié au changement climatique, puis poursuivre quelqu'un? Pouvez-vous juste démystifier un peu pourquoi est-ce qu'une compagnie peut être tenue responsable précisément, dans quelles circonstances, puis pourquoi est-ce qu'elle ne peut pas être tenue responsable?
Les scientifiques ont avancé ces études beaucoup pour apportionner les dommages et dire cette portion, c'est la responsabilité du changement climatique. Comme dans l'ouragan qui a affecté la Caroline du Nord, les scientifiques disent qu'on a vu 50% plus de pluie qu'avant parce que les effets du changement climatique. On a vu des ouragans en avant, on a vu des tempêtes, des inondations, mais ils peuvent dire un pourcentage relié au changement climatique. Et on le voit dans les vagues de chaleur qui affectent la santé. Les scientifiques sont beaucoup plus avancés à dire c'est ça une portion du changement climatique. C'est ça comme dans la levée des mares. C'est dû c'est la responsabilité du changement climatique. Ensuite, on sait qu'est-ce que la portion qui a la responsabilité du changement climatique. Nous savons quelles corporations ont émis quel pourcentage et on peut dire c'est ça sous responsabilité, cette sous-portion des coûts.
Assez pour que les tribunaux déterminent la part des responsabilités avec certitude.
On a 11 ou 13 cas dans les États-Unis où les municipalités comme New York, San Francisco, Oakland ont avancé ces types de réclames. Et on va voir, c'est toujours en cours. Il n'y a pas d'alternement maintenant, mais on a c'est exactement comme dans le cas du tabac, où on a vu le commencement de beaucoup de ces types de poursuites. Et avec la meilleure science, les révélations de qu'est-ce qu'on voit des records de la coopération comme partie de ces poursuites, plus d'évidence. Et enfin, on a vu que les compagnies du tabac ont dû payer une portion des coûts de la santé publique.
Est-ce qu'il y a une juridiction, une province, un État où ce genre de loi a été adoptée et est en vigueur?
À ce moment, non. Ce sera le premier.
Puis pourquoi vous avez confiance que ce soit l'Ontario qui trail the...
C'est possible pour nous d'avoir beaucoup de dommages à l'avenir et c'est nécessaire pour nous d'agir maintenant.
Peut-être juste une question aussi en terminant. Pourquoi ne pas... Est-ce que vous pensez que ce projet de loi-là, disons qu'il n'est pas adopté en Chambre, est-ce que vous pensez que le gouvernement conservateur, le ministre Rod Phillips, pourrait l'intégrer à son plan sur les changements climatiques qu'on attend?
Je pense que c'est possible pour ce gouvernement conservateur de l'adopter. Peut-être c'est difficile, mais si on écoute leurs mots, c'est clair qu'une loi comme ça, c'est une loi que les conservateurs... Mon Dieu, un manque de grammaire ici, un manque de mots. Mais it's clear to me that if they're saying that they don't want to have carbon taxes or cap and trade, the burden of the cost of damage and response to climate change is something that has to be shared with companies, and this is one way to do that.
We're also seeing, after this was introduced in the spring, environmental groups in BC started urging the BC government to adopt it as well, and we're seeing it sort of proposed in other places. So it started in Ontario, but it's also people are sort of taking the text of the bill and saying, oh, we want this here too. So what's likely to happen is you'll see this spreading. It'll be adopted in one place. In Canada, BC was actually the first to adopt specific legislation to be able to pursue tobacco companies, and then every other province copied it.
And just in terms of impact, do you hope that the impact is that companies reduce their carbon emission, or the cost gets taken over? I mean, what impact specifically are you trying to have here? That is it cost related or really?
Well, there are two parts, really. In some ways, we're saying to investors and fossil fuel companies, you are going to be paying for the damages, so you should be acting now to protect yourselves. And also saying to them, you created a situation in which there will be very large-scale damages. We want you to be sharing the cost of responding to those. So it's two parts.
If you read corporate filings, which I get to do, it's a fun thing, starting 2 years ago after the New York case was launched, the oil companies started putting in their filings to investors, the security regulators saying, we risk being sued over climate change for climate liability, exactly what's proposed here. And they're obligated to tell their investors. And that's sending also a signal to their investors that, there's likely going to be, just like tobacco, a big bill coming, and you should change your investment portfolio appropriately.
Okay, c'est ça?
Merci.
No other
Merci.
questions? Thank you very much, everyone.